Part 3. The negotiations did little except garner mutual respect between Saladin and Richard. But in spite of the respect, there was still some serious crusading to do. So Richard gathered his formidable Crusader forces and began marching east in November 1191, with hopes of recapturing Jerusalem.
Bye-bye, stupid English people! It was nice to be meeting you guys!
What a nice guy! For a bloody infidel, he ain't half bad, yeah?
The long march to Jerusalem was made even more difficult because Saladin had destroyed all the fortresses, poisoned all the water wells, and stripped towns of all provisions along the Crusaders' route to deprive them of necessities and wear them down through thirst, hunger, and heat exhaustion.
Oh, this is so much better than going to Paris. What a great honeymoon you pick up for us, dear.
Well, you know what, Barry? I can bloody well do without the sarcasm.
Richard and the Crusaders had Jerusalem in their sights and were camped out about 12 miles outside the city. But the harsh December weather was making life very difficult. Richard realized that their situation was untenable, and even if they took the city, they wouldn't be able to hold it. So he ordered the troops to pack it up and return to Jaffa. I saw a detour like 6 miles back over that way. Come on, man!
Oi, 6 miles? That's a bloody bit out the way. Let's go back to Jaffa and get some hummus, yeah?
After returning to Jaffa, the Crusaders quickly marched south to capture the strategic port city of Ashkelon. Richard's troops easily took over the city and began to rebuild all the fortifications the Muslims destroyed before fleeing. After the city's capture, Saladin had no ports left along the Palestinian coast to bring troops, supplies, or Molokhaya from Egypt.
Why are concrete masonry unit blocks approved as a form of birth control by the Catholic Church?
Huh? What? Because after a day of mixing mortar and moving blocks, your back hurts so much you don't even want to fool around. But first, a little more Holy Land political intrigue. Richard kept stumping for Guy of Lusignan to remain as the king of Jerusalem in exile, even though his wife had died. But in a landslide victory, Conrad of Montferrat was chosen as the new king by all the area nobles, because they were all related to him somehow through King Philip II of France.
Let's make Jerusalem great again. Vote for me and I'll set you free.
To prevent civil war and help placate Guy, Richard forced the Hospitallers to sell Cyprus back to him for half of what they paid for it, and then proclaimed Guy as King of Cyprus. Meanwhile, 2 days after being chosen as king, Conrad was in Tyre celebrating his victory when he was stabbed to death by the assassins, and everyone suspected Richard was behind it, although he pleaded his innocence.
Surprise!
A surprise? But it's not even my birthday.
A week after Conrad's untimely death, Richard arranged for his nephew, Henry II of Champagne, I guess he liked to drink, to marry the very recently widowed Queen Isabella, thereby making Henry the new king of Jerusalem in exile. Now that Richard had his own people in place in the Holy Land, he decided to get back into the swing of crusading once again.
I pronounce you man and wife. Now go out there and start fucking and make more Catholic babies.
Oh, now that shit's done, it's time to get back to crusading.
After a few skirmishes here and there, the Crusaders reached the Holy City in June 1192. But the same problem persisted. If the Crusaders took Jerusalem, they didn't have enough men to hold it, and Saladin would easily cut off supplies and reinforcements coming from their coastal strongholds and trap the Crusaders like dirty rats.
Oh, come on, sir. We've got to attack Jerusalem. It's literally right there.
I'm already hot and tired. And that's at least 12 miles away.
So we walk all this way for nothing? Oh, he's not a happy camper.
Richard, who was quite the military genius, proposed marching to Egypt first and bringing the battle to the heart of the Ayyubid dynasty in hopes of beating them into submission and forcing them to relinquish Jerusalem back to the Crusaders without having to put it under siege.
So we go on over to Egypt and push this little button here, and voila, it's all ours. Easy bloody peasy, yeah?
Although Richard's plan was solid and made a lot of sense from a military standpoint, a whole bunch of hothead French Crusaders were like, "Fuck Egypt, we came here to conquer Jerusalem," and refused to follow Richard's orders any longer, which made him so mad he quit being the crusade leader and said he was just a common soldier from now on.
This whole crusade is falling apart, sir. What was we gonna do?
I'm gonna stay here and drink me tea, I am. It ain't me problem.
Since neither faction had enough troops to achieve their respective goal on their own, the Third Crusade kind of just fizzled out, and the teary-eyed Crusaders turned their backs on Jerusalem once again and marched back to Ashkelon, pointing fingers and calling each other names as they went.
No Jerusalem, no raping, no looting. What a bloody waste of a crusade.
As the Crusaders gathered in Ashkelon bitched about their failure to take Jerusalem and argued over what to do next, Saladin called for an all-out assault to retake Jaffa in July 1192, hoping to boost Muslim morale, gain back some of his street cred, and teach that limey bastard Richard a lesson about which of them was the true military genius.
You said Jaffa was a shithole. Why you want it back now?
Like that Johnny Mitchell say, you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Jaffa was not well defended, and Saladin's troops quickly breached the walls and began slaughtering every Christian they got their mitts on as revenge for Richard's massacre of the Muslim POWs at Acre. Saladin was mortified by the brutality of it all, so he rounded up any Christian he could find and hid them in the citadel, and even put his own loyal guards outside to protect them from the massacre.
Hassan the chop!
That is for being my country. I am copyright.
Richard was disappointed by the Crusaders' failure to listen to him about how to retake Jerusalem, and was about to leave Ashkelon and return home when he got the news that Jaffa was under attack. So he grabbed like 2,000 knights and hopped aboard several Paisan ships to set sail for Jaffa in hopes of saving their beleaguered Christian brethren.
We going to Jaffa? That place is a shithole. Let's just go home.
What? And let that bleeding diaperhead Saladin get the best of me? No bloody way, mate. No bloody way.
Woohoo! Let's go kick us some little.
As the ships reached Jaffa, Richard was disheartened to see Saladin's flags flying on the walls, and was just about to call off the attack and turn around, when a crazy priest who escaped from the city jumped into the sea and swam out to the Crusaders' ships to tell them of the thousands of Christians that were safely locked inside the citadel and holding out.
Look, it's a freaking mermaid. Kill it! Kill it!
I'm a merman! A merman!
Richard was so happy to hear this, he jumped off the ship into the waist-deep water, still wearing his pajama bottoms, and charged up the beach, swinging his Danish battle axe and hacking away at the stunned Muslims who tried to flee back into the city. The rest of the Crusaders followed Richard's lead, and any Muslim unlucky enough to get stuck outside before the city's gates closed was quickly cut to pieces.
Nothing personal, it's just politics, Gov. Die, you dirty cons!
Listen out to me. I'm a racist bastard. I ain't fucking bound.
Richard was smart enough to know Saladin would soon send relief troops to catch the Crusaders outside the city, so he ordered his men to relentlessly attack Jaffa's walls and create a breach ASAP. The Crusaders quickly broke a hole in the wall, then rushed inside and freed the Christians hiding in the citadel, turning the tables on the Muslim attackers and sending them running like scared rabbits to save their skin.
Leave us alone. Why don't you just go home already?
You ever been to England, Gov? It's a dreary shithole.
And, wouldn't you know it, Saladin was indeed preparing a major assault to destroy Richard's troops, and had secretly gathered his troops in the woods. But a paisano, who was out on a morning stroll, discovered the Muslims hiding in the bushes, and ran like a bat out of hell back to Jaffa to tell Richard, thereby ruining Saladin's element of surprise.
Pasta Vazul, that's a lot of the infidelis.
When Saladin had launched his surprise dawn attack, he was more surprised to find Richard and the Crusaders already outside the city's walls, awaiting them, with spikes in the ground to stop their horses, pikemen lined up behind a wall of shields, and 2 rows of tough Italian crossbowmen to provide a constant barrage of bolts against the infidels.
These crossbows are great, but they do have the drawbacks.
Although outnumbered 10-1, the Crusaders held their lines, and the crossbowmen were mowing down the Muslim archers that were trying to inflict damage with hit-and-run tactics. As the bodies of dead infidels and their infidel horses began to pile up in front of them by the hundreds, Richard called for an all-out charge right into the enemy's ranks.
These crossbow sucks. I keep a missing. Hey, give me yours.
Oh, that's my new crossbow. And you keep missing, of course you suck.
Richard, who always dressed to impress, was clad in red from head to toe, and even had his white horse painted with a red dye to match his outfit. This warm and positive color is associated with our need to survive and represents a strong and powerful energy, and even helps to motivate those that wear this color to take action.
This does not compute. Everyone knows that I am the real Red Rocker.
Don't think so, dude. Everyone knows Sam is the Red Rocker.
Bitch, please. I'm the original Red Rocker.
Fine, we're all bloody Red Rockers. Now piss off!
With his trusty Danish battle axe in hand, Richard led the charge and showed why he was nicknamed the Lionheart. With just 12 knights, Richard crashed directly into the Muslim lines and hacked and chopped his way through, killing enemy soldiers by the hundreds, all by himself. Needless to say, but Saladin was totally impressed by Richard's ferocity.
Hey, is there a loo around, Gov? Ow! Gotta take a wicked piss.
What? You piece guy? Just go behind the bush or something, man.
Saladin ordered his fleeing troops to get back into the battle, but they never saw a warrior as thoroughly bonkers as Richard, so they refused their sultan's commands and just kept on fleeing. Saladin's bid to retake Jaffa and wipe out the Crusaders was an epic fail, so he was like, oh, fuck this nonsense, and called for a full retreat.
You know what? Java is meaningless. I no care. Let's just back go home.
Meaningless? My cousin had died fighting in that battle. It's not meaningless, okay? With the failure at Jaffa, Saladin had now lost almost all his gains since the Battle of Hattin, and his image in the Muslim world as an invincible warrior took a big hit. On top of that, Saladin's troops were sick and tired of the constant fighting after years of ceaseless battles and the incessant nagging of their wives for never being around for the kids' soccer games, school plays, swim meets, and dance recitals.
Fighting is all that I know. What am I forced to be doing now?
I have been taking the online classes to become a licensed real estate agent.
They are opening a new McDonald's in Damascus. Maybe you can get afford to be getting job there.
But first, some European political intrigue. After King Philip of France left the Holy Land, he was in cahoots with Richard's little brother John to take away Richard's realm, and began egging him on into thinking that he should be the King of England, because Richard was never there and always off in some foreign land, fighting the natives and banging the native chicks, and sometimes the native dudes too.
Is yours a king yet? Because I only hang out with kings, you know.
Not yet, Gav. Oh, bet I look good in a crown here. Let me try yours on.
Anyhow, by September 1192, Richard had to get back to England to bitch slap his little brother for thinking about trying to usurp him. So he began serious negotiations with Saladin to end the Christian-Muslim hostilities in the Holy Land and figure out a way they could coexist with each other.
Well, except for the clause that states all the Franks is a bunch of doge, we good.
After much back and forth, the two leaders agreed that Saladin would be allowed to keep Jerusalem, but he had to let unarmed Christian pilgrims come and go as they pleased to the Holy Land, while the Crusaders were allowed to keep all the coastal territory they took back from Saladin, and made Acre the new capital of the Latin states of Outremer.
Ah! Look, honey! It's that salad-eating guy! Take a picture of me with him!
If I knew how annoying all these Frank tourists are, I would have for to be giving Jerusalem back too.
Richard also gave Ashkelon back to Saladin, so he could have one port of his own to bring in supplies from Egypt. But he had to promise to demolish all the fortifications the Crusaders just finished building. Saladin also promised to return the true cross once he remembered where the hell he hid it.
It got to be here somewhere. Where the hell I put that thing?
And lo, on October 9th in the year of our Lord 1192, Richard and Saladin agreed to all the terms in the peace treaty, and that it was binding under international law. So Richard and his knights packed up all their stuff and departed the Holy Land to return home to England, thus ending the Third Crusade.
Oi! Good riddance! I hope you bloody sink right into the sea!
But first, a little more European political intrigue. On the way home, Richard's ship was blown off course during a storm and crashed on a shore in hostile territory, where he was not very well liked. So Richard had to disguise himself as a common Templar knight and sneak through the Holy Roman Empire to avoid being detected by Duke Leopold of Austria.
The bloody crowd won't notice me with this brilliant disguise.
Richard ended up getting caught and was put in chains and brought before Duke Leopold, who was still really pissed about that whole casting down his banner thing back at Acre. Leo threw Richard in a Holy Roman dungeon and kept him as his prisoner for over 2 years, until the English finally ponied up and paid a huge ransom to gain their king's freedom.
Oh, you can't keep me locked up here! I'm a bloody king! I command you to release me right now! Hello?
Anyhow, back to the epilogue of the Third Crusade. Although the Crusaders failed to retake Jerusalem from the infidels, they did succeed in retaking the entire Levantine coast, and created a well-defended area with nice schools to protect Christian supply and trade routes in the east. The Muslims made out pretty good too, although they weren't happy that Saladin couldn't rid the Holy Land of the smelly Franks. They did get to keep Jerusalem as a prize, and a lot of Muslim merchants became rich as fuck as trade between the East and West flourished under the truce.
What is you for to be doing without that mullah, Ahmed?
I am going to bury it in my garden, so I can make my soil rich.
So although neither side really got what they wanted, they did achieve a temporary peace, which gave the weary Muslim soldiers time to chill and go apple picking with their families, and gave the Christians time to strengthen their position and keep a solid footing in the Holy Land.
We done good here. Now we get to party, boys. Cheers to our success.
Cheers! How is we supposed to drink this?
Bloody hell. Wish we had some freaking straws.
And now that the dust has settled, let's take a look at the big board of death and get ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr.'s take on the debacle known as the Third Crusade. Death estimates are based on the historical fact that most people of that era were savage lunatics blinded by religious furor that thoroughly enjoyed killing people just for fun. Upgrading the offensive line is a priority here. The Crusaders have the number 5 and the number 7 picks in this year's military draft, thanks to last year's trade with the Byzantines, providing them with an opportunity to land an elite offensive player in a key spot. If the Crusaders want to take it to the next level, they got to go offense. So while most people consider the Third Crusade to be a success, church leaders did not, and wanted Jerusalem back in Christian hands. So just 10 short years after the Third Crusade ended, a call was put forth to begin yet another crusade. The waggiest crusade ever held, the Fourth Crusade.
You didn't get Jerusalem! You blew it! Our God hates us! Nice job, you jerk-offs!